and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be reviewing this book here called When Marnie Was There. Hope you can see that. It's a children's book and it's by Joan G. Robinson and it was first first published in 1967 in Britain. So it's a classic children's book. This book is the fiction I chose for my designated fiction reading in the pattern fiction, fact, fiction, fact. Now, I had wanted to read this book for a while because Studio Ghibli, that's the Japanese animation studio, had released an animated film version of When Marnie Was There, and I wanted to read the book before I saw the film. I still haven't seen the film yet. It's on DVD. I think it was released in 2013. It is quite expensive on DVD, even on Amazon, but I would like to get it at some point, maybe as a treat for my birthday or something. Because I do like Studio Ghibli. I've seen all their films, pretty much all of their films. Might just be one or two I haven't seen. But yeah, they do really good animation, so I want to see that. Also, the book appealed to me because it is about a friendless, socially isolated girl who shares my name, called Anna. The protagonist happens to be called Anna, which is nice. Although Anna is not said to be autistic, bearing in mind this was written in the 1960s, and she could be read as just quirky, of course, you know, many children can be like that without being autistic, I cannot help but wonder that the character could be read as autistic, particularly in the descriptions at the beginning of the book. I mean, when it comes to fiction, you can, the reader of a work of fiction can really add their own interpretations, their own lens onto a story that might not be the interpretation of the author. The book is, in a sense, written twice by the author and then by the reader, who then adds their own interpretation onto the text. So, with absolute justification, you could read the character Anna as autistic if you wanted to do so. Anna lives with her foster parents in London, but she is sent to Norfolk to live with an elderly couple because it's thought that the fresh sea air will do her some good. On page 9, Anna says that she does not have, I quote, best friends at school like all the others, not particularly wanting to ask anyone home to tea, and not particularly caring that no one asked her, which of course I can relate to because that was basically me in a nutshell when I was at school. She says that everyone else was inside some sort of magic circle that she cannot access, so a sort of sense of alienation that again I can relate to. This is something that is very similar to my own experience growing up as an autistic child. In Norfolk, Anna becomes very interested in what appears to be an abandoned house called the Marsh House. Anna has a strong feeling that the house is occupied, but it is not clear whether or not this is just a fantasy. Anna has no desire to get to know the family she thinks live at the house, because then she would lose control over them and they would cease to belong to her. One day, though, Anna meets the fair-haired girl, who is called Marnie, as in the title, When Marnie Was There, that she spots having her hair brushed from within one of the house windows. Both at first don't think the other one is real, and both had been secretly watching each other. Marnie appears to be just like Anna, almost her twin or double, the only difference really being the way they're dressed. There's Anna there with her brown hair, and Marnie with her blonde hair. It's interesting because when I was a child, I was really fixated with girls who had yellow hair and blue eyes. I don't know what that was about. Maybe it's just a case of wanting what you don't have. And I used to be really just drawn to girls like that. And I'm not sure when I was a child if I would have wanted to read a book like this. It's possible I would have been interested in a book like this because, after all, it's very female-centric. It's about the story of two girls. And the few books I did read as a child that were fiction were about girls. Like I read Enid Blyton's Mallory Towers. That was a big favourite of mine, which was about girls which was about the experience of girls at an all-girl boarding school in Cornwall. So it's possible I would have enjoyed a book like this. So the question is whether Marnie is real, a ghost, or just a product of Anna's imagination. On page 126, we learn that the other kids think that Anna is weird as they see her talking to herself on the beach. But actually, Anna is talking to Marnie. On page 130, Marnie says that she wants to be friends with Anna forever and ever. And in fact, Marnie turns out to be Anna's first real friend, although we could read Marnie as simply an imaginary friend. I won't tell you any more about the plot, as I don't want to spoil the book for those who decide to read it. But the main themes are family, love, memory, and holding on to that which is good. Because the book is for children, I found it a lot easier to read than most works of fiction, and rarely for me, I did not need to find out the ending before I read the book. This was because the book was less demanding than adult fiction, meaning that it was easier to understand without external help. Children's fiction tends to spell out emotional states or subplots, which means that I can immerse myself in a plot without so much effort. Children's fiction might even help autistics to better comprehend adult fiction. As a child, as I've already mentioned, apart from Mallory Towers by Ina Blyton and the American Little House books, the Little House on the Prairie books, I hardly read much fiction once I had outgrown the basic Ladybird fairy tale books, which I loved as a young child. I was very... Let's get some water. Sorry about that, people. Been talking way too much today. Just had to get some water. Where was I? Yes. I did really enjoy reading the fairy tale books. The Ladybird fairy tale books when I was a very small child. But once I progressed beyond those, I didn't read so much in the way of fiction. Older children's fiction was often way too demanding for me, which is why, although I could read really well and I learned to read at a very, very young age, you know, my comprehension lagged significantly behind my mechanical reading age. So I was kept back onto level 1 really when I was at school, so I didn't really get to read much in the way of older kids' fiction. But as an adult, I have developed enough to be able to appreciate what I cannot understand as a child. It's almost like developmentally, I'm at a level now, fiction-wise, where I can actually comprehend children's fiction in a way that most people can when they're sort of 10 or 11 years old, I guess. So I could pick up a book like this and read it in a way that a 10 or 11-year-old would, with probably the same amount of comprehension, whereas when I was a child I wouldn't have really comprehended it much at all, or really struggled. As I say, When Marnie Was There is a classic. It's written in the 1960s, and I do recommend this book if you would like to explore fiction gradually. I know many people can be quite disparaging towards children's fiction, and you know, when it comes to adults reading it, I mean. But I think that's rather. I don't think you need to feel ashamed about reading children's fiction. I mean, after all, you only have to look at the success of a Harry Potter franchise to see, you know, how many adults can get a lot out of children's fiction. Children's fiction can often be very intelligent. It might not be as ambiguous and complex as adult fiction, but it doesn't mean it has to be poor in quality. And I think particularly if, you know, you do struggle with adult fiction, taking baby steps and beginning with children's fiction can only be a good thing. You know, I think it's better to read than not read at all, and the most important thing is to enjoy what you're reading. So as I say, I definitely recommend this book if you would like to get into fiction gradually. Okay, so I'm going to be moving on now to video number 2, where I'm going to be answering a viewer question. So moving on to video number 2 now.